I never thought I'd be writing something like this, NGL. My hands are still shaking so bad, I can barely type. I'm Ron, 38, and I've been married to Brenda for 5 years. We had this whole life, stable, predictable, or so I thought. Everything just exploded an hour ago with a single phone call about an accident that makes absolutely no damn sense. My life was pretty much on autopilot, a steady hum till Brenda started changing. It wasn't overnight, more like a slow leak. She used to be all about us, about our routine. But over the last 6 months, it was like she was constantly elsewhere, even when she was right next to me. The work trips started getting more frequent, longer, and honestly, super vague. Conference in Denver, client meeting in Scottsdale, then this 2-week project launch in Houston. NGL, I hated them. I'd ask for details, and she'd just brush me off, saying I didn't understand the corporate world. Or she'd get annoyed, calling me insecure. Looking back, that was a huge red flag I ignored. I just chalked it up to stress, thinking maybe she was just overwhelmed. Then the phone rang. It was an unknown number, a 970 area code. I almost didn't answer, figured it was a spam call, but something just made me. "Ron?" a gruff voice asked. "This is Detective Miller, Vale Police Department. We have your wife, Brenda. She's been in a serious accident." My blood ran cold instantly. "Vale?" I managed, my voice suddenly tight. "What do you mean, Vale? She's supposed to be in Houston. She's been there for 3 days already." The detective paused, and that pause felt like an eternity. "Mr. Roberts, your wife is currently at Vale Community Hospital. It's bad. You need to get here." Vale, not Houston. The words just kept circling my brain like a broken record. Vale, not Houston. That's when the first crack appeared in my calm facade. My dad, after my mom's affair, he became this paranoid wreck, seeing conspiracies everywhere. My older brother, Robert, he reacted differently, violently. He tracked the guy down and, well, let's just say Robert ended up doing time. I always told myself I was different, calmer. But now, this feeling, this cold dread, it was exactly what I remembered from back then. That sickening lurch in your gut when you realize the person you trusted most is living a whole other life. The drive to Vale was a blur. 2 hours of my mind just racing and trying to make sense of something that made no sense at all. Houston to Vale. That's not a detour. That's a whole damn different destination. My hands were shaking so bad on the steering wheel I thought I was going to swerve off the road. What if spiraled into a hurricane in my head? Was she kidnapped? Was she involved in something I didn't know about? Or worse, was she lying to me? The betrayal was already a bitter taste in my mouth, even before I knew the whole truth. I practically ran into the ICU. The air was thick with that hospital smell, antiseptic and despair. A nurse directed me to her room, and there she was, or what was left of her. Brenda, my Brenda. She was hooked up to so many machines, bandages covering half her face, a neck brace. Her arm was in a cast. NGL, for a second, I didn't even recognize her. She looked like a stranger, battered and broken. My heart ached, but beneath it, a sharp, cold splinter of suspicion was already growing. This wasn't right. "She's stable, considering," the nurse said, her voice flat, almost bored. She was checking the IV drip. "We found her abandoned in an ambulance by the side of the highway. Lucky someone spotted it." Then she added, almost as an afterthought, "Rough stuff. Someone knocked her up and just left her there." The world stopped spinning. It just froze. "Knocked her up?" I heard my own voice, distant, disbelieving. The nurse looked up, her expression unchanging. "Yeah, she's about 8 weeks along. Didn't you know?" My brain just couldn't process it. 8 weeks. That meant this happened before she was supposed to go to Houston, before the lie even started. My Brenda, pregnant, not by me. I couldn't breathe. I leaned over, my eyes searching for something, anything that would tell me this wasn't real. It was a dumb reflex. I remembered a stupid tattoo she had, a tiny Jiminy Cricket on her inner thigh, a private joke from way back when we first met. I gently pulled back the sheet. There it was, a small, faded green cricket. Jiminy. It was her. It was really her. and she was really pregnant. I flashed back to when I met Brenda. She was this bright, bubbly, ambitious woman, full of life. I fell for her hard. We talked for hours, planned our future, moved in together after 6 months. Everything was just easy, perfect even. We talked about kids someday, but we were focused on careers, saving up. This wasn't part of the plan. This wasn't us. The contrast between that vibrant woman and this broken, pregnant stranger in the bed just ripped through me. I even remembered a conversation with her dad, Frank, a few years back. He hated Brenda's ex, Kyle. "That boy's no good, Ron," he'd said, shaking his head. "Too smooth, too much of a player. Broke her heart once, almost ruined her." I brushed it off then, thinking it was just a protective dad thing. Now Kyle's face, hazy and unwelcome, pushed its way into my thoughts. Was he still around? A few minutes later, a different nurse came in and handed me a plastic bag. Her personal effects. The police already went through them. Inside, her phone, keys, a wallet with some cash, her ID. Everything seemed normal, except nothing was normal. They'd already searched it. That meant they were looking for something. They were investigating her. My phone buzzed. Detective Miller again. "Mr. Roberts, I need you to come down to the station. We have a few more questions, immediately if you can." My heart hammered against my ribs. "Whippy tuck?" I asked, though I already knew. "We just need to clarify some things," he said, his tone shifting, becoming official, cold. Suddenly it clicked. They didn't just want details about Brenda. They were looking at me, like I had something to do with this, like I heard her. The Vale police station was a sterile, unwelcoming place, even as the last sliver of sunlight faded behind the jagged peaks. Deputy Johnson, a woman built like a brick wall with a permanent frown, met me at the door. Detective Miller, looking tired but alert, was already in the interview room. "Mr. Roberts, thanks for coming in," Miller said, gesturing to a hard plastic chair. "Do you mind if we record this?" "No, I guess not," I said, trying to keep my voice even, though my insides were a knot of raging nerves and cold dread. My mind was screaming, Brenda is pregnant with another man's baby, and she's in the hospital, dying, and now they think I did it. I had to play it cool. I sat down, the chair digging into my back. "Ron Roberts, 38, bricklayer." I stated my info, trying to project a calm, innocent vibe. Miller got straight to it. "Where were you last night, Mr. Roberts?" "Say between 8 p.m. and 2 a.m. "I was working," I said without hesitation. "I had a fireplace repair job in Manitou Springs. Big old stone hearth. Took me all evening, finished up around 1 a.m., cleaned up, then drove straight home. Got in around 2 a.m. I gave him the address of the client, the guy's name, even my phone logs showing calls to him for specifics. I had a rock-solid alibi. Thank God for late-night clients. Miller nodded, jotting notes. "Okay, and what about your wife? You said she was in Houston?" "Yeah, for a conference. A project launch, she called it. Been there since Monday," I repeated, trying to sound like I was still just a confused, worried husband. Then Miller hit me with it. "Mr. Roberts, your wife wasn't found abandoned in an ambulance. She was found at a cabin, with a man we're currently identifying as Mr. Green. The ambulance story was a desperate attempt to cover tracks by whoever dropped her off at the hospital. Her injuries suggest she fell from a significant height, possibly from a deck or balcony at that cabin." My breath hitched. Not abandoned in an ambulance, found with someone. Mr. Green, the name echoed in my head, a faceless enemy, a cabin. The story was unraveling faster than I could keep up. What are you talking about?" I feigned shock, my face probably pale as a sheet. Part of it was fake, part of it was genuine horror. "We also have her credit card statements. She's been using them in Vail since Monday, not Houston. Hotel charges, restaurant bills, even a ski rental," Miller continued, his voice devoid of judgment. Just stating facts, but each fact was a punch to the gut. "And perhaps most damning, the car she was driving? A rental. Rented under a fake ID Brenda. My Brenda. This wasn't just a mistake or a single bad decision. This was calculated, planned. She'd built a whole other life, a whole other identity, to sneak off to Vail with Mr. Green and get pregnant. The words the nurse said echoed again. Someone knocked her up. This wasn't some random fling. This was an ongoing affair. Miller leaned forward, his eyes locked on mine. Mr. Roberts, here's what we think happened. Your wife, Brenda, was having an affair with Mr. Green. They were here in Vale together. Something went wrong at the cabin, maybe an argument, maybe an accident related to her pregnancy, and she fell. While Mr. Green has tried to cover it up, dumping her at the hospital, fabricating this ambulance story. He paused, letting that sink in. We believed this wasn't just a one-off trip, but a pattern of behavior. My mind was reeling, but a fierce resolve was taking root. The betrayal was crushing, but also infuriating. My internal voice, usually a gentle hum, was now a roaring beast. Traitor. Liar. How dare she? I had to know everything, every single detail. I would find out who this Mr. Green was. I would find out how long this had been going on. I would find out everything. I don't know what to say, I stammered, still playing the role of the shell-shocked husband. This is unbelievable. I mean, Brenda and I, we were fine. Houston, a fake ID? I shook my head, trying to look utterly baffled. Do you have any idea who Mr. Green is or why she'd do this? Miller just shrugged slightly. That's what we're trying to figure out. Do you have numbers for her parents, Mr. Roberts? We need to inform them. I gave him Frank and Carol's numbers, hoping they wouldn't notice the tremor in my voice. Then, trying to sound helpful, like a worried husband who was just trying to assist the investigation, I asked, she drove her own car, right? Her SUV, did you get a search warrant for it? Maybe there's something in there if she was really planning all this. A journal? Anything? It was a fishing expedition, disguised as concern. If they hadn't thought about it, now they would. If they had, I'd know they were already digging. Miller looked at Deputy Johnson. We'll follow up on all leads, Mr. Roberts. We'll be in touch. He gave me a card. For now, try to get some rest. We'll let you know if Brenda's condition changes or if we find out anything new. I stood up, feeling a strange mix of numbness and white-hot anger. The tears I should have been shedding for my injured wife were frozen solid. As I walked out of the station, the setting sun painting the sky in fiery hues, my mind was no longer confused. It was sharp. It was focused. It was a blade honed and ready to cut through every single lie Brenda had built around me. I needed to find Mr. Green, and then I needed to know everything. Making the call to Frank and Carol was one of the hardest things I've ever done. My voice was a dead thing, robotic, as I relayed the horrific news about Brenda's accident. Carol immediately burst into tears, but Frank, Brenda's dad, was different. He was quiet, a low growl of anger beneath his concern. Vale? Pregnant? He repeated, his voice dangerously low. It has to be Kyle, that bastard. I told her he was no good. The name Kyle hit me again, a ghost from Brenda's past that just wouldn't stay buried. Frank's certainty about him being Mr. Green planted a seed of dread. The moment I hung up, I knew my next step. I called Brenda's office. Her assistant, Sarah, answered, sounding surprised. Oh, Ron, is Brenda okay? We haven't heard from her since Monday. We thought she was just off the grid for her big Houston project. My blood ran cold. Houston? I asked, feigning confusion. No, Sarah, she's not in Houston. She's been in an accident, in Vale. Sarah was genuinely shocked. Vale? That makes no sense. We don't have any projects in Vale. She's definitely not on a business trip. Confirmed, the Houston lie was a complete fabrication. My wife had just vanished officially. That call hardened my resolve. I spent the rest of the night, fueled by black coffee and a burning anger, going through every single financial record I could access. Joint accounts, of course, but I also had access to her personal credit cards and statements online. I needed concrete proof, not just police theories. It was like peeling back layers of a rotten onion. The credit card statements were the first big reveal. Hundreds of dollars in Vale, hotel rooms, fancy dinners, ski rentals, all dated over the last 3 days. Not a single charge in Houston. But then I found something even more jarring. Recurring charges for a P.O. box. A small monthly fee. What the hell would Brenda need a P.O. box for? It screamed secret. Then there were the other charges. Multiple large transactions at a high-end jewelry store also in Vale. Not just one, but several. Hundreds. then thousands. What was she buying and for whom? And why in Vail when she supposedly hated jewelry? She always said it was too fussy. Car rentals too, multiple times, always in Vail. Not just this trip, but dating back months. This wasn't a spontaneous fling. This was an elaborate, ongoing deception. I wandered aimlessly through the house for a bit, my mind a storm of questions. Then I remembered Brenda's SUV, parked perfectly in the driveway. She always drove it when I was working on a job, even if I was just a few blocks away. My car was in the garage. I walked out and opened her SUV door. Inside, tucked neatly behind the passenger seat, was her personal briefcase. She always kept it with her, even on business trips. It felt like a small win, a piece of her life she hadn't hidden from me. My hands were shaking again as I snapped open the latches. Inside, along with her usual work documents, there it was, a small, sleek burner phone tucked under a stack of papers. It wasn't the same brand as her regular phone, and I'd never seen it before. I pressed the power button and it lit up, empty. No calls, no messages. She must have wiped it, or it was brand new. But why have a burner phone at all? Only one reason: to hide conversations. Beside the phone, a small silver key. It wasn't for our house or her car or her office. It was too small, too thin. My heart hammered. The P.O. box, it had to be. I clutched the key, feeling a surge of something cold and hard in my chest. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. This was evidence, physical proof of her lies. I called Todd, my best friend. He's always been my rock, the guy who knows everything, keeps my secrets. Todd, you're not going to believe this. I started and then just spilled everything. The accident, the pregnancy, Vail, the fake ID, the P.O. box charges, the jewelry, the burner phone, the key. He listened, silent, just a few grunts of disbelief. Dude, he finally said, his voice quiet, she's been playing you hard. His words, blunt and honest, just solidified the truth. I need to go back to Vail, I told him. I have this key. It's for that P.O. box. I have to see what's in it. I have to find out what she was hiding. Todd didn't argue. He knew. We both knew. There was no going back now. My mission was clear. I started a new document on my laptop, a meticulously organized list of every inconsistency, every suspicious transaction, every lie. The bricklayer in me needed to build this case, brick by painful brick. The drive back to Vail felt different this time. Less frantic, more focused. The P.O. box key felt heavy in my pocket, like a small, cold weight. My heart was still a bruised mess, but my mind was sharper than ever, zeroed in on finding answers. I found the post office Brenda used easily enough, a small, unassuming building tucked away behind the main street. With trembling hands, I inserted the key into the small box. It clicked open, revealing a stack of envelopes. Official looking. My gut twisted. I pulled them out one by one. Bank statements, investment portfolios I never knew existed. And then, the shocker, a deed. A deed for a small house. Not a rental, but a purchase. Bought entirely in peace. In Brenda's name, a house. While we were struggling to save for a bigger place, she was buying secret property. The air left my lungs in a ragged gasp. This wasn't just an affair. This was a whole other life. As if that wasn't enough, I found another key, this one heavier, clearly for a safety deposit box. And then, tucked beneath everything else, a thick, legal-looking document. A will. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped it. I unfolded it, my eyes scanning for my name. It wasn't there. Instead, the will left everything to someone named Chad. Not Ron, not her husband. Chad. My vision blurred. Chad. Mr. Green, the detective said. Chad. The man she was pregnant with. The man she was buying a house for. The man she was leaving everything to. It was like a physical blow, worse than any punch. My marriage, my future, everything I thought we had built was a complete fiction. Brenda had meticulously planned to erase me from her life, from her death even. I got back in my car, needing to move, to do something. I pulled out my phone and typed Chad into the search bar, adding Colorado Springs address. It was a shot in the dark, but fueled by a desperate need for a face, a name. And there it was, Chad Thompson, in a dress in Colorado Springs. A profile pic from some social media, a smiling, clean-cut guy, mid-30s maybe. He looked normal, like a regular guy. That almost made it worse. The sheer scale of this betrayal was overwhelming. I was out of my depth. This wasn't just a discovery, it was an entire clandestine operation. I needed professional help. I needed someone who knew how to uncover secrets. I needed a private investigator. Before I left Vail, I had one more stop to make. The jewelry store from Brenda's credit card statements. It was a fancy place, gleaming display cases, soft lighting. My stomach churned as I walked in. I showed them a picture of Brenda from my phone. My wife, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She made some purchases here recently. Custom rings, I think? The saleswoman, a perfectly coiffed blonde, smiled politely. Ah, yes, Mrs. Roberts. Such exquisite taste. The custom engagement and wedding set. A truly unique design. For her fiancé, right? She mentioned it was a surprise. The world tilted, engagement and wedding rings. For her fiancé, not me. Not for us, for him. Another man, Chad. The surprise was on me, all right. A sick, twisted joke. I mumbled something about needing to confirm details for insurance and practically ran out of the store, the saleswoman's cheerful voice echoing in my ears. Back home, I found Mike. Mike was a local PI, known for being thorough and discreet. He listened patiently as I laid out the whole mess. Brenda, the accident, the pregnancy, Vale, the fake ID, the P.O. box, the house deed, the will, Chadid in his address, the engagement rings, every detail, every painful discovery. I handed him the printouts of bank statements, credit card bills, everything I'd found. I need you to find this Chad Thompson, I told him, my voice raw. I need to know everything about him, everything about their affair. My blood was still boiling, a cold, hard rage replacing the earlier shock. While Mike started his work, I knew I couldn't just sit there. I had to do something. So using a few tools from my workshop, I went back to Vail Community Hospital. Brenda's SUV was still in the parking lot, impounded but accessible. I discreetly attached a small magnetic GPS tracker to the underside of her car. If it moved, if anyone else came for it, I'd know. I wasn't going to be kept in the dark anymore. I had a dossier of betrayal building, and I wasn't done yet. Mike moved fast. Within 24 hours of me hiring him, he was on Chad Thompson's tail in Colorado Springs. He promised discretion and thoroughness, and he delivered. The next day he called. Ron, it's him, Chad Thompson. He's definitely your wife's lover. I've got photos, surveillance logs, everything you need. My stomach clenched. Hearing it, even after all my discoveries, was a fresh wound. Mike then dropped it by, a thick manila envelope in hand. Inside were dozens of photos. Brenda and Chad Thompson, laughing, holding hands, kissing, coming and going from a sleek apartment building in Colorado Springs. Intimate, undeniable. Seeing her, vibrant and happy with another man, after all her lies to me, it was a gut punch. A betrayal so complete, it felt like my very foundations were crumbling. Turns out, Mike continued, Chad works at the same company as Brenda. Different division, but they'd have met at corporate events, maybe even cross-department meetings. Makes sense. He laid out a detailed timeline showing how Brenda's business trips perfectly aligned with Chad's known movements, not to Houston, but to Vail or this secret apartment. And speaking of apartments, Mike added, your wife has been renting one here in Colorado Springs for the past 7 months, under her maiden name. Another lie, another secret layer peeled back. A whole life I knew nothing about. I pulled up my GPS tracker app on my phone. Sure enough, Brenda's SUV, still parked at the hospital, had been there, on and off, at various times, always returning to the address Mike gave me for the secret apartment. It wasn't just a love nest, it was her other home. I went back to the hospital. Brenda was still unconscious, still hooked up to machines. I stood by her bed looking at her, a shell of the woman I thought I knew. I tried to find a flicker of the person I married, but all I saw was the face of a stranger, a deceiver. I kept my poker face, though, no emotion. I just watched. A silent sentinel, my mind a churning storm of anger and questions. This wasn't pity, this was me, studying my enemy, trying to find a tell, a weakness. I couldn't hold it in anymore. The weight was crushing me. I called Frank and Carol again. There's more, I said, my voice flat. Brenda, she's been having an affair. I laid out the PI's findings, the photos, the secret apartment, Chad Thompson. Carol cried, but Frank, he just went silent for a long moment. I knew it, he finally whispered. I knew that Kyle had his hooks in her again. I told her. I had to correct him. It's not Kyle, Frank. It's a guy named Chad Thompson, from her work. Frank was devastated, but then he looked at me with a strange glint in his eye. Ron, honey, check the house. Brenda always kept a cash stash, a rainy day fund, in a small safe under her side of the bed. Don't ask me why. She just did. I rushed home. Underneath Brenda's side of the bed, hidden beneath a loose floorboard, was a small, heavy safe. I used the combination Frank had given me from memory, their old anniversary date. Inside, stacks of cash, thousands of dollars, and more documents, more deeds, more investment statements, all under fake names or shell companies. The financial deception was even deeper than I imagined. This wasn't just secret money. This was an entire secret economy. I also got a copy of Brenda's work calendar. It was almost comical how obvious it was now. Every single business trip to Houston, to Denver, to Scottsdale, they were all blanked out or marked with vague, off-site meeting notes. They perfectly aligned with Chad Thompson's confirmed whereabouts and Brenda's secret apartment rentals. She had been living a double life for a long, long time. My last piece of the puzzle was Brenda's burner phone. Mike's tech guy had managed to crack it. The messages, oh, the messages. Can't wait to see you, my love. Miss you so much, baby. Our future house in Vail is going to be perfect. I told Ron I'm in Houston. He's so clueless. My hands shook reading them, a torrent of sickening, intimate exchanges between Brenda and Chad. It was confirmation in her own words that she had completely gaslighted me, woven an elaborate web of lies, and was planning a whole new life with another man. The rage that simmered under my skin finally erupted. NGL, I wanted to smash something. The sheer audacity of her betrayal, the cold calculation, made my blood run cold. Every loving word, every shared moment, every plan we ever made, it was all a lie, a performance. And now I had all the receipts. Stick around to the end to see how life's costly choices unfold. With Mike's photos, Brenda's burner phone messages, the house deed, the will, and all the financial records, I had a dossier that could sink a battleship. My next stop was a divorce lawyer. I chose Laura, known for being tough and sharp. She listened, her expression unreadable at first, then shifting to something like professional awe as I laid out my carefully organized evidence. Mr. Roberts, she said, tapping her pen on the table, in 20 years I've rarely seen a client come in with this level of meticulous detail. You've done half my job for me. She quickly outlined the strategy, secure everything. First, we need to protect your assets and the marital home. She's been living a double life, defrauding you. That makes a significant difference. I went home and systematically changed every single lock on the house. Front door, back door, garage. Every lock was new, every key in my possession. It felt strangely empowering, a small reclaiming of my space, my sanity. Then I moved to the financials. I secured all joint bank accounts, transferred my half of any liquid assets, and froze all credit lines that Brenda had access to, using her history of fraud as leverage with the banks. NGL, it felt cold, but necessary. She'd built an entire fortress of lies. I was just dismantling it. Laura helped me formalize my timeline. It wasn't just a list. It was a narrative of betrayal, week by week, month by month, detailing the fake trips, the secret apartment, the property purchase, the rings, the will, the burner phone. Every lie documented, every dollar tracked. It was devastating to see it all laid out, a stark record of how completely I'd been duped. Laura also immediately applied for a temporary restraining order. Given the extent of her fraud, her use of a fake ID, In the ongoing police investigation, we can argue she's a flight risk and potentially a threat to marital assets, she explained. The order would prevent Brenda from coming back to the house until everything was sorted, giving me time and control. I knew I couldn't face Brenda alone when she eventually came out of the hospital. I needed witnesses. I needed Frank and Carol there. They deserved to see her exposed, to hear it from her own mouth. I called them, my voice heavy. She's getting better, but there's more. I need you both to be here when she's discharged. You need to hear it. They agreed, their voices grim. Then I called Detective Miller. I laid out the new findings, the P.O. box contents, the house deed in Vale, the safety deposit box key, the will naming Chad, and especially the burner phone with all its incriminating messages. This is beyond just an accident, Detective, I told him. This is premeditated fraud and an elaborate double life. Miller listened intently. Mr. Roberts, we've already opened an investigation into Brenda Roberts for identity fraud concerning that fake ID. This new information, it corroborates a lot. We'll be in touch. That was a small victory. The cops were now on my side, not suspecting me. My plan for exposure began to take shape. I wasn't just divorcing her. I was laying bare every single one of her lies. Not just to her, but to anyone who needed to know. She deserved to face the consequences of her deception. I went out and bought a few small, discreet, hidden cameras. I carefully placed them in key areas of the house, the living room, kitchen, the hallway leading to the bedroom. I wanted every single nuance of her reaction, every attempt at gaslighting, every plea, every tear to be recorded, for my protection, for my sanity, and for the record. Finally, anticipating her eventual return to try and collect her belongings, I went through the house, photographing and inventorying everything of value in all of Brenda's personal possessions. Clothes, jewelry she did own, personal mementos. Each photo was time-stamped, each item listed. No chance of her claiming I stole anything or that something went missing. I was building an airtight case brick by agonizing brick. My rage had morphed into a cold, calculated precision. Brenda had played me for a fool, but that game was over. Now it was my turn. The day Brenda was discharged from the hospital, I was there. My face was a mask of calm concern, my voice low and steady. I helped her into the car, buckled her in. She tried to hold my hand, but I gently pulled away, claiming I needed to focus on the road. Her cast was still on, and she moved slowly, wincing from pain. Part of me, a tiny wounded part, almost felt sorry for her. But the bigger part, the one that had meticulously built this case, was cold, resolute. This was it. When we pulled into the driveway, she smiled faintly. "Home," she murmured. But her smile faltered as I unlocked the front door with a key she didn't recognize. Her eyes narrowed when she saw the pristine new deadbolt. "What's going on, Ron?" she asked, her voice tinged with unease. I didn't answer. I just led her into the living room where the hidden cameras were discreetly recording every second. I had prepared everything on the coffee table, a neat stack of documents, printouts of emails and texts, Mike's photos, the house deed, the will. I gestured to the chair. "Sit, Brenda." My voice was flat, devoid of warmth. Her eyes darted from me to the pile of papers, then back to me, fear starting to register. "What is this?" she asked, her voice cracking slightly. "This," I said, my voice cutting through the silence, "is everything." I picked up the stack of photos first. Brenda and Chad Thompson, laughing, kissing, intertwined. I laid them out, one by one. Her face went white. "Ron, I can explain. Can you explain the Vale P.O. box, the house deed in your name, bought with Guy, the safety deposit box key, the will leaving everything to Chad?" I pushed the documents across the table. "Can you explain these credit card statements showing you in Vale, buying engagement and wedding rings for another man, while you told me you were in Houston?" I kept my voice even, despite the hurricane inside me. She started to cry. "Ron, please. It's not what you think. I was confused. I was stressed. He manipulated me." Classic gaslighting, trying to shift the blame, play the victim. "Don't even try that, Brenda," I said, cutting her off, my voice rising slightly. "Do you remember that stupid Jiminy Cricket tattoo on your thigh? The one you always said was for your parents, Jim and Carol? She flinched. Yeah, funny thing. I found the burner phone. I read the messages. Jim and Chad, right? A cute little secret code for your two lovers. That hit home. Her eyes widened, a look of pure shock. The one lie she thought was untouchable, revealed. Just then the doorbell rang. It was Frank and Carol. I had timed it perfectly. They walked in, their faces grim, and saw Brenda, pale and tear-stained, surrounded by the wreckage of her lies. Carol gasped, looking at her daughter, then at the photos. Frank just stood there, his jaw clenched. Mom, Dad, it's not what it looks like. Brenda tried, scrambling for an excuse. Frank, his voice a low growl, stepped forward. It looks exactly what it is, Brenda. Lies, deceit. Ron told us everything. He picked up one of the photos of her and Chad. So Mr. Green wasn't Kyle after all. It was Chad. I told you, Brenda, you always fall for these smooth talkers. His disappointment was palpable, heavy in the air. Faced with her parents, her last line of defense crumbled. Brenda sank back into the chair, sobbing uncontrollably. I'm so sorry, Ron, she choked out. I'm so sorry, Mom, Dad. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. But her words rang hollow. This wasn't an accident. This was a calculated, years-long betrayal. Carol rushed to Brenda, trying to comfort her, but her own face was a mask of devastation. How could you, Brenda? How could you do this to Ron, to us? I let the scene play out for a few more minutes, the cameras silently documenting her breakdown. Then I took out the final documents. Brenda, I said, my voice cold, this is a restraining order, and these are divorce papers. You need to leave now. I placed them on the table right next to the pictures of her and Chad. Her head shot up, eyes wide with panic. Leave? Where am I supposed to go? My car's at the hospital, my apartment. I don't have anywhere to go. Your secret apartment in Colorado Springs, I assume, I replied. Or perhaps the house you bought in Vail? I've already secured the joint accounts. Your cash stash and other properties are frozen for the duration of the divorce proceedings. You're on your own, Brenda. I wasn't just kicking her out. I was pulling the rug out from under her entire secret life. I watched her, a broken woman, collect a small bag of essentials, her parents watching in horrified silence. As she stumbled out the door, I turned to Frank and Carol. I know this is hard, I said, but I needed you to see it. I've taken legal steps to protect myself and my assets. Laura, my lawyer, is confident we have a strong case for infidelity and fraud. I laid out the strategy, the likely outcomes, the long road ahead. They listened, their faces etched with grief, but also a newfound understanding. The game was truly over. The fallout was immediate and brutal. Brenda, discharged from the hospital and locked out of our home, tried desperately to access her secret apartment and her hidden accounts. But Laura, my lawyer, was already 2 steps ahead. The temporary restraining order blocked her access to the marital home, and the freeze on her hidden assets meant she couldn't touch the cash or the Vail house. Her secret life, which she thought was so secure, crumbled around her. Word travels fast, especially in the corporate world. The details of the affair, her pregnancy, the accident, and the fraud quickly started making the rounds at Brenda's company. I heard through mutual acquaintances that her professional reputation was in tatters. She was put on immediate administrative leave, facing an internal investigation. Chad Thompson wasn't immune either. His own job security was now hanging by a thread, his career likely torpedoed by the scandal. NGL, it felt like a small, cold comfort. They both deserved every bit of it. Laura worked like a machine. She secured my assets, ensuring that I retained full ownership of the marital home. We moved swiftly to annul Brenda's secret will. The fact that she had bought a house in Vail using cash, while married to me, and intended to leave everything to Chad, painted a very clear picture of financial fraud. With the evidence I provided, Laura was confident we could legally claim ownership of the secret house, effectively taking away one of her major illicit assets. The authorities were still in motion too. Detective Miller confirmed that the investigation into Brenda's fake ID and potential fraud was progressing. Criminal charges were definitely on the table. It was a stark reminder that this wasn't just a messy divorce. It was a criminal enterprise she had orchestrated. During this grueling time, My friends, Todd and Mark, were my lifelines. They listened to my rants, let me vent, brought me food, and just sat with me in silence when I couldn't form words. Their unwavering support was the only thing that kept me from completely losing it. Healing was a slow, agonizing process. The emotional wounds were deep, a constant ache in my chest. I still found myself replaying moments, questioning everything, wondering how I could have been so blind. The gaslighting was so insidious. It had messed with my head for years. Laura brought up a nuclear option. Brenda, being a licensed professional, was bound by a strict code of ethics. Exposing the full extent of her fraud, her use of a fake ID, and her calculated deception to her professional licensing board could lead to her losing her license entirely. It was a heavy decision, one I was still weighing. Part of me wanted to utterly destroy her life, just like she destroyed mine. Another part, the part that still remembered the woman I fell in love with, hesitated. Brenda, true to form, tried to contact me. Multiple calls, texts, even an email from a burner account. Ron, please, just talk to me. I miss you. I made a mistake. I forwarded everything to Laura. No contact, she instructed firmly. She's trying to manipulate you. Keep everything through me. It was hard, but I held firm. I couldn't risk falling back into her web of lies. Mike, the PI, dug a little deeper into Chad Thompson. Turns out he had a history. Not just one affair, but a string of them. A reputation for being a charming manipulator, preying on women in his company, always leaving a trail of broken hearts and professional scandals in his wake. Brenda wasn't his first, and probably wouldn't have been his last. It clarified so much, explaining the ease with which Brenda fell into his orbit, and how expertly they had both played me. Every financial lie Brenda had meticulously constructed, I systematically dismantled. Every shell company, every hidden account, every asset she thought was hers alone, was now being scrutinized and claimed. The irony wasn't lost on me. Her elaborate scheme to build a new secret life with Chad had completely backfired, leaving her with nothing but a damaged reputation, potential criminal charges, and no escape. My cold fury had transformed into a methodical pursuit of justice, ensuring that Brenda would face the full consequences of her monumental betrayal. The divorce felt like an eternity, but finally, it was over. The judge, after reviewing the mountain of evidence Laura presented, the burner phone text, the house deed, the P.O. box contents, the credit card fraud, the PI reports, didn't hesitate. I was granted the marital home, a substantial portion of our joint assets, and Brenda got next to nothing. Her carefully constructed empire of lies had collapsed, taking all her illicit gains with it. Brenda faced the full weight of legal repercussions. The fake ID charges escalated, and, with the discovery of the cash stash and the fraudulent property dealings, the police launched a deeper investigation into potential embezzlement. She lost her job, of course, her career utterly ruined. NGL, the Professional Licensing Board, didn't hesitate either once they saw the evidence. She was stripped of her credentials, her financial future annihilated. She was financially ruined, living with distant relatives, a complete pariah. Chad Thompson didn't escape either. His company, reeling from the scandal and the internal investigation Mike helped initiate, fired him. His reputation was irrevocably trashed. He vanished from the local scene, another casualty of Brenda's destructive path. It wasn't nuclear revenge in the cinematic sense, but it was thorough, complete justice. The secret house Brenda bought for Chad in Vale, I sold it. Every single cent from the sale. After legal fees, I donated to a local charity that supports victims of domestic abuse and infidelity. It felt like the only right thing to do, turning her symbol of betrayal into a force for good. That act, more than anything, gave me a profound sense of closure. Slowly, carefully, I started to rebuild. The emotional scars were deep, no doubt. There were days I still felt the phantom pains of betrayal, the anger, the confusion. But I started going out with friends again, forging genuine connections. Todd and Mark were incredible, always there. I even started cautiously dating, making sure to be upfront about my past, looking for authenticity, for honesty. It was scary but necessary. Brenda tried to reach out, Countless times, emails, letters, even showing up at my workplace once, trying to talk, to explain, to reconcile. Each time I channeled it through Laura. Mr. Roberts has no interest in communication or reconciliation, Miss Roberts. All further contact must go through my office. I had moved on. The pain was still there, a dull ache sometimes, but the rage had faded into a quiet resolve. There was nothing left for her, no second chances. I often thought about my journey, from the confused, heartbroken husband to the meticulous investigator, and finally to this place of peace. I navigated the storm not by lashing out recklessly, but by patiently, logically, and systematically uncovering the truth. My integrity, though tested, remained intact. That was my true victory. Frank and Carol, Brenda's parents, remained in my life. They were heartbroken by their daughter's actions, but they recognized my honesty. Ron, Frank had said once, his voice thick with emotion, "You handled this with more grace than she deserved. We're so sorry she did this to you." Their acknowledgement meant a lot, a small thread of family connection that endured. I even found myself advising others, people I met through friends or online, who were going through similar betrayals. Sharing my story, my methodical approach, helped them feel less alone, more empowered. I became a testament to the idea that you can not only survive such a devastating betrayal, but emerge stronger, wiser, and more focused on what truly matters. The moral consequence for Brenda was absolute. Her elaborate web of lies and deceit had not only cost her a marriage, but led to the complete downfall of her career, her finances, her reputation, and her personal life. She built an empire on lies and it imploded. For me, through the ashes of my destroyed marriage, I built a new life. A life founded on truth, on genuine connection, and on the simple, profound value of trust. I've found lasting happiness, not in revenge, but in authenticity.